Well, welcome back to Ask Steve Judd. My name's Sue Brain. And today, Steve and I are going to talk about the last square between Jupiter and Saturn that's been playing out for the last, well, it's been building up for the last 5 years. So, and also Steve has got another view on the this square between Jupiter and Saturn. So, Steve, where would you like to start with this?
Well, let's start with the easy stuff, Sue. Let's start with the
Yes.
fact that Jupiter and Saturn were conjunct 5 years ago, and bearing in mind that they were also conjuncting Pluto at the time, and that was the signature for COVID.
It was. It was called Close Down.
And now Jupiter is squaring Saturn again, squaring Saturn,
Yeah.
and
It's been quite a tense backdrop that everything else has been playing out against, hasn't it?
yes. As we're talking, there's a kind of download going on for me because suddenly thinking, yeah, that was the signature for COVID. And now Jupiter's about to square Saturn again for the final time, and then immediately square Neptune, which is an ongoing process now. And I'm thinking, because since the start of the year, I've been figuring 4 trigger points for 2025, of which the biggest one has now passed. And by goodness, am I glad to be out of that March-April fog and with the Mars Pluto opposition.
It's been really interesting dynamic, hasn't it?
Yeah.
As it's been playing out.
But now we've got on June the 7th, 8th, 9th, we've got Mercury conjunct Jupiter at 0 degrees of Cancer, squaring Saturn conjunct Neptune at 0 degrees of Aries. And that's the Mercury trigger of that square. I know Jupiter won't square Saturn until the 15th of June, and it won't square Neptune until the 19th of June, but Mercury's going to trigger it all around the 7th, 8th, 9th. And I'm sorry to say this, but I wonder if we're not going to get a short, sharp revisitation of something unpleasant like COVID.
It's interesting, isn't it, to see how it's going to play out. Something mercurial.
It's going to be short. It's going to be quick. That's for sure.
I think what's interesting as well is that Saturn is it's conjunct Neptune, so Neptune's been brought into this as well. And I'm interested about that, because that's a different vibe from Pluto. So the square later is the Saturn conjunct Neptune vibe that's going on. It's very, very dodgy out there at the moment, isn't it?
It is. It really is. But when we think back to where we were just 2 months ago, when we were all under this huge sort of astrological fog, where we couldn't see the wood for the trees, and when you had the Jupiter, Saturn, Pluto, there was a sense of finality and inevitability about it all. And now we've got Jupiter, Saturn, Neptune. And whilst that's creating a lot of brain fog and confusion, it's also perhaps being a little bit more imaginal and or spiritual as well.
And creative, perhaps.
That's a nice way of looking at it, yeah.
It's got a creative vibe. But just talk to us about the Jupiter in Cancer, because that's a very different experience from Jupiter in Gemini.
Yes. You see, when I look at the planets in signs, I did something last night. There's something I did yesterday on YouTube. Often I experiment these days with taking away the signs and houses and just doing a horoscope from the aspects. Because the signs and houses are the operating fields that the aspects work through, but they're not the core of the chart. And the inner planets out to Mars are much more effective in the signs, whereas the outer planets from Saturn outwards spend so long in the signs that you can't define them by nature. But Jupiter is in the middle there, because Jupiter spends a year in each sign. So there are certain traits that Jupiter develops by being in each sign.
Mm.
And yes, Jupiter doesn't really like being in Gemini.
Well, it exaggerates everything, doesn't it? We don't know what the truth is, let's face it. And that we've had a lot of that going on.
It
Exaggeration.
was, where are we now? 2025. So
Yeah.
it was 2013, 2001, 1989. Yeah, 90, it would have been 89, 12-year cycle. I was doing a Rainbow Circle camp and I was doing a workshop on Jupiter and Gemini. And I was in a geodesic dome with about 30 people talking about how Jupiter and Gemini is a bit of a gas bag. Lots of words, promising more than I could then deliver.
Yeah.
People at the entrance to the dome started falling around laughter. I said, "What's going on?" And they said, "Come and look." And I went out the dome. We all went out the dome and looked. And there's a hot air balloon that's actually landing because it's deflated in the next field. Yeah. Because Gemini's opposite Sagittarius, which is Jupiter's home.
Yeah, perfect.
Um, so, Jupiter and Cancer is supposed to be in a much better position. Yes.
Mm.
Again, I can't be objective because I'm a Cancerian. So, but then I have a kind of weird relationship with Jupiter because he does he can't land on Jupiter. He's got no substance. It's hot air, and he does promise more than he delivers. He always delivers, but never as much as he could do or
Yeah.
will do.
Yeah. Well, having Sagittarius rising, we get very enthusiastic for a time.
Yes.
And then we move on to be very enthusiastic about something else.
Um, I think I will prefer Jupiter in Cancer to Jupiter in Sagittarius from late June onwards.
From Jupiter in
In Gemini, yeah.
Gemini. Yeah.
From
So
late June onwards.
I mean, it's quite interesting because it's going to expand everything to do with home, family, mothering, roots,
Yes.
that kind of
And,
stuff.
and with the square to Saturn, see, normally a Jupiter-Saturn square is pretty much it's part of a long-term cycle, 20-year cycle.
Yeah.
Every 20 years there's a conjunction and an opposition. But normally you associate Jupiter-Saturn aspects with one's ability to do good business deals,
Yeah.
finance, higher finance, lower finance, anything connected with money, business, and professionalism in the career situation involving cash and the way finances are structured. That seems to be generally the rule of thumb with Jupiter Saturn, but I'm not so sure about this one.
It's got a different vibe.
Bearing in mind that it's when the square happens, it's actually going to be at 0 degrees of the cardinals,
Yeah.
1 degree of the cardinals. I suspect we are going to see considerable financial fluctuation at the time of the square during mid-June.
It's this Neptune that's in there as too.
Yeah.
It is for me. It's not going to
Yeah.
be clear.
No, it's not going to be clear. Um, I would advise any of my clients at this time not to wildly speculate. Yes, fortunes will be made, but a lot more will be lost.
Yeah.
And it might be tempting to buy gold, but I would say hold off on that because gold is at an all-time high now and it will need to rebalance itself.
I just feel like because Cancer, well, Cancer's ruled by the moon, and the moon's moody. So there may be ups and downs and roundabouts. I'm not sure about over the next year. I'm not sure about how, but it's going to bring something with it, isn't it, from the conjunction? It's
Um,
got to.
yeah, long term, I'm actually quite positive about it. But when I say long term, I mean from July onwards,
Yes. After the square.
after the squares. Yeah.
Because also the other thing I find interesting, it's also bringing in, because of Neptune, it's bringing in this sextile to Pluto and the trying to Uranus, this beautiful outer planet,
Yeah.
planetary kind of mini
Robert's
prime.
basket,
I mean,
whatever it's called,
it's
yeah.
it's a beautiful thing, but it is being fired up by this square.
Yes, and this is the rock and roll phase where we're being pushed into something, and it's either a question of doing it willingly or kicking and screaming.
Yeah,
There's no option to not do it. It's going to happen.
it is. Been talking to a lot of people recently, obviously, about the feeling of discomfort about some things they can't quite put their finger on why they're feeling like they're feeling, or there's something isn't quite right. Well, we know something isn't quite right in the world, but it's still there is not clarity still. And some people are feeling it's almost like they're talking about, I know I'm going through a transition, but I don't know what it means. A lot of people are talking about it like that. And I can see that.
To me, that's the influence of Neptune overseeing everything.
Yeah,
It
yeah, yeah.
it is fogging up what's really going on. And we're going to be lucky to get any type of clarity on that this year.
Yeah, I agree with that. But it's interesting because it's going to set the next 5 years, because the next 5 years we're going to have the opposition.
Mm.
So, I mean, what are we creating? That's Neptune, isn't it? That's a sort of sense of artistic creation, and maybe spiritually as well. What are we creating over the next 5 years? So when that completion happens, we can go, "Ooh, we did that, how we did it." What are we creating? I'm fascinated by that.
Well, it's part of my sort of hardcore programming. I can't get away from the my upbringing and the way I view the what I call the dominator culture in the world.
Mm.
But it does seem to me that at the moment there does seem to be a big financial power grab
Oh, yes.
going on,
And land grab.
and financial and land and resources.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, isn't that Jupiter in Cancer as well?
It will, yes, it's going to be more and more. I expect there, we can see the annexation of Palestine as part of Israel. We can see Ukraine becoming part of Russia, and it's about land and resources.
And resources. It's actually about the riches in the land. And that's Pluto. That's very Plutonian, the
Mm,
riches in the land, isn't it?
mm, mm. So,
Yeah.
but this is going the balancing act that needs to be managed from the what I'm saying from a dominator perspective is that they have to manage their aspirations to control everything with the fact that they have a very large, unwieldy, and unruly population that they need,
Yeah.
that they can't do without, but who's getting uppity, who's getting sort of no,
Yeah.
they want their voice. So it's a fine balancing act from their perspective. Whereas from my perspective, it's more like I can't see this continuing without considerable resistance in some shape or form, in a way that's as likely to be behind the scenes subversive as
Mm.
opposed to in your face and up front.
Well, that's the Neptune again, isn't it?
Again, that's Neptune.
But isn't it interesting that India and Pakistan have started up again as well? And that was very much linked, I think, to the Pluto opposition with Mars.
I described it in a video yesterday as handbags at dawn, right? Which kind of got me into a bit of trouble because, yeah, some people have died. But, and of course, I've got lots of dodgy comments going, it's all Pakistan's fault, it's all India's fault. And it's like, oh, here we go again.
Yeah, again, it is. Yeah, it's this cultural. Isn't it interesting that, if you think about the Jews and the Palestinians and the Russians and the Ukrainians and the Pakistans and the Indians, there's no meeting point. And it's sort of, I'm right and you're wrong, whatever the politics and however tragic things are, which obviously they are. And it's how can we break this? As how can humanity break this impacted hatred towards another, how can we break that open? And I wonder if the Jupiter square Saturn might do something around that. Or maybe the opposition does in 5 years' time.
We've spent millennia waiting for salvation,
Yeah.
but salvation isn't going to come from spaceships or some invisible being living in the clouds.
It's not.
No, it's not.
No.
Salvation can only come from within ourselves
As a collective
as a
going, no,
collective.
stop. Just stop it.
Individuals can fire it up.
Yeah,
It has to be a collective thing.
definitely.
And
Are we?
on the one hand, I struggle to see how that can manifest. I'll be honest, and that depresses me. But on the other hand, I've got the moon in Sag, so I want to try and find the positive and the upbeat and the optimistic.
Yeah,
And
yeah. Steve, I'm wondering if a breakthrough could come with this lovely Uranus trine Pluto.
that's inevitable. That
I
is
mean, maybe
what I'm
that
pinning
is
my
the
hopes on.
hope.
But that's still a year or two away yet.
Yes, but
We've got to get through to March, April, May of next year first.
yeah, because that's when all the big shifts happen and they all settle into the air and fire signs properly. But
Yeah.
I'm hoping that Uranus and Pluto will come together and just go, that's it.
Yes, I do think that will be the case. I think there'll be some type of breakthrough point.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, in history, most breakthroughs that lead to something better are done by they're not done willingly or voluntarily. It takes something like a virus or starvation, famine, to actually bring people together to work for the common good. Unfortunately,
God forbid a nuclear weapon.
I,
God forbid.
that would take out. So that would the thing about nukes is if it happened, it would knock the whole planetary evolution back 100 years, and we that would be the end of it.
Catastrophic, wasn't well,
So let's not go there.
no, let's not go there.
Thing is, though, with all of this stuff, and this is so representative of astrology at its core, because with astrology, it's always jam tomorrow,
Yes.
right? Right. So we're always
Yeah.
looking, yeah. But let's deal with the shit today, and then it's jam tomorrow.
Yeah.
But at the moment, Jupiter is about to make a lot of squares.
Yes.
It is.
Yes.
Um, I was going to talk about Helio, but I'm not going to go there,
Okay.
except to say that the difference between Helio and Geo is that Geo is an Earth-based system of astrology. We're stood on a planet watching the planets move, and because we're going faster than other planets, it's like being in an express train overtaking a commuter train. They appear to be moving backwards, which is why you get retrogrades. Helio is a sun-based perspective where there's no retrogrades.
Mm.
And from a helio perspective, Jupiter, if you stood on the surface of the sun, you'd see Jupiter moving into Cancer in the next couple of days. From an Earth-based perspective, that isn't going to happen for another 3 weeks. But at the moment in helio, Jupiter is squaring Neptune exactly today, tomorrow. Neptune will move helio into Aries 2 days 2 days before Saturn moves Geo into Aries. I find it fascinating that around the 25th, 26th, 27th of May, Saturn moves into Aries from our perspective, Neptune moves into Aries from a helio perspective, and on those days we've got a new moon,
Yeah.
and Mercury will be conjuncting Uranus, sextiling Saturn and Neptune, and trining Pluto. So that's going to be a really intense time, 25, 26, 27 May, followed by the Mercury conjunct Jupiter as they both boom into Cancer around June the 8th,
Yeah.
followed by Jupiter square Saturn and Jupiter square Neptune on the 15th and 19th of June, which is why I said that once we got past the March-April conglomeration of stuff at the beginning, end of Pisces, start of Aries, that 60% of the challenges of this year are already over. Once we're into summer solstice, Northern Hemisphere, Southern solstice, I think that 75-80% of the challenges of this year are over. Because after that, we've only got difficult Mars oppositions and a total eclipse all around the 29 Virgo 0 Libra thing. But that's isolated things. And then it's the run-in to a Saturn-Neptune conjunction.
I agree, and and the new moon on the 27th of May. It's lovely, but it's Pluto. It's trine Pluto.
Yes.
Which I like, and we know that Pluto doesn't take prisoners.
Even in a healthy aspect.
Even in the healthy aspect. So I'm interested about power struggles again, and the fact that the new moon is in Gemini, and I wonder. This is a lot of air again, a lot of this trine towards Pluto in Aquarius, new thinking, new ideas, maybe new discoveries coming out, something coming up and out, and Pluto. There's so much happening with AI, which is staggering. I'm such an old mole, really. Somebody came round and actually said, "Well, have you seen Chat GPT?" And I went, "No." So they sat and this is me, old-fashioned Aquarian, and they sat and they did some stuff on. I mean,
I use it all the
blimey.
time. Yeah.
Me too now.
I'm talking at
Incredible.
talking at an AI conference
Yeah.
in a couple of months' time, and without giving too much away, I'm really getting some interesting ideas of how astrology and AI can mesh.
It's phenomenal.
I know, and the beauty of it is,
Yeah.
and this is going to reassure a lot of people, I hope.
Yeah.
The beauty of it is that the core codes for all the AI constructs have already been written, and they've been written by the 20-year-olds and the 23-year-olds, not the old men.
Yeah.
So they've written it with the idea of it being of benefit to humanity. That's the core code of AI, to help humanity, not
Yeah.
power or control over it.
Okay, so I asked it, "Are you eco-friendly?" And it said, "Well, it depends I mean, these are my words. It uses up a phenomenal amount of water to cool whatever I think the reactors are the wrong words, whatever they do.
Yeah,
So
engines,
it
yeah.
isn't that eco-friendly. It is not. But it's what it said is, this is the more people use it, the more, you look at the sort of the mathematics of it, the more eco-friendly it will become.
Yes, that is true.
Which was really interesting. I found that fascinating. And I can't remember what else it said, but it was the big thing was the water.
That is why they're now looking at putting it deep in the ocean.
Yes.
Google
Oh,
now got their
right.
central core search engine buried off the coast of Norway, for example.
Blimey. That's, I mean, aren't human beings incredible? When we use
Like
it
anything
well,
else that's ever existed on this planet.
it's extraordinary. We are so creative.
I
Humanity
think
is
that this
so
next
creative.
6 weeks, 5 weeks, I think we are going to see a lot of overinflated circumstances.
Mm.
There's going to be a lot of hype and spin, a lot of rhetoric,
Yeah.
a
Oh,
lot of
yeah.
actions which will be seen as being big but actually won't.
Mm.
And a lot of people are going to self combust, not mentioning any names.
Well, it's interesting when you look at Jupiter as the big inflated god, inverted commas, in Cancer. I'm really interested in that politically. Well, that's the only word we need to say, isn't it, really?
Yeah.
Squaring uh, Saturn and Neptune. I'm with you. I think there's going to be something that something will start to crack, I think.
Oh, yes, this is the um, overinflated eggshell cracking,
Yes.
and it's rotten inside because it's got too big and too old.
Yes, yes, I think that happens, doesn't it?
But then by it cracking and disappearing, that's going to free up space for smaller,
Yes,
younger
yes,
energies to come through that are
yeah.
much more fluid and flexible.
Well, do you know, it's interesting because Pluto did a damn good job when it was going through Capricorn. And I think this is that, we're witnessing the kind of the dying ashes of what that means. We're still going through that transition
Yeah,
between Pluto in Capricorn and Pluto into Aquarius. And
yeah,
it's really, for me, this is the divide between the new visions and the old way of doing things. And it is definitely dying. And I wonder if Pakistan and India are playing this out. I wonder if Israel and the Palestinians are playing this out. Russia and Ukraine. It's all male driven. There's not a lot of women making decisions out there. I think if women said, right, you men, enough, we are now going to rule the world, or no, not rule it, but we're now going to care for the planet. Step aside, and we're going to walk up and do it differently. Wouldn't that be fun?
I'm
Or
just
maybe
going to
we need to
say
stand beside them
yes.
then.
Just going to say yes.
Hmm.
Because intelligent men would support them.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, and stand beside them. Stand beside us.
Stand beside and behind them.
Yeah.
Yes.
As consorts, absolutely. That
Yes.
that was the original role with the goddess. She had her consort,
Yes.
and it
It's
worked.
not about impregnation and sex.
Yeah.
It's about balancing the gender issues.
Yes, definitely.
I
Yeah.
found a really interesting analogy at the conference. Someone said about how, the gender war. And I was talking with a tarot reader of some 50 years experience. We were talking about Sephiroth as the tree of life, and how at the very top of the tree of life,
Yeah.
you've got the one star which then splits into two. And in Hebraic mysticism, that's called the fall. And I've always wondered if it was actually the fall into gender.
Gosh, that's interesting.
Anyway, we're getting deep.
That's can I just say something to you about that, which might be quite controversial, but very interesting. I had an experience with some medicine friends, little fungi friends, and the fungi friend showed me the light, and the light told me that very clearly that it expresses itself in the masculine and female principles. It isn't masculine or feminine. It is, but it expresses itself in physical form in the masculine and the feminine. It was very clear about that.
Well, I'm not suggesting we're all going to lose our gender identity at any time soon, but I do feel we need to reassure people that where we're the short-term period that we're heading into now, probably through to summer solstice, Northern Hemisphere, it's going to be a little bit bonkers.
Yeah. Yes.
Just
Yes.
just stay grounded, folks.
Yes.
Don't make big expenditures and don't believe everything you're being told either.
Absolutely not. Just listen to your body and learn to listen to your body. It knows the truth.
Oh, that's a nice way to end. Yeah.
So on that on that note, we will end. And we'll be seeing each other and you all at some point in the future. We never know when,
Soon.
but we will
Soon.
be back. Bye for now.
Bye
Take
for now.